Just 6 months ago, it really did seem like Disney was taking anime really seriously and trying to make their move into an ever-growing and very profitable market. Sure, before then they were acquiring licenses like Summertime Render and Tommy Time Machine Blues, but last November we seen them landing a big exclusivity with Kodansha's future titles. And additionally making a very grand statement at APAC about their plans of increasing their offerings for the Southeast Asia market. Their whole plan there was to increase the amount of subscriptions they were having in that region. Well, that all seems to be falling apart for Disney. And a recent report by Variety almost paints a picture of their failures in that market and possibly a bad sign for their future in anime efforts. Variety has reported that Disney Plus shed another 4 million subscribers in the first 3 months of 2023. Oof. This marks the second consecutive quarterly drop after closing 2022 with their first ever decline. At the end of the first quarter, they ended with 157.8 million subscribers to Disney Plus. That's still a hefty amount, let's be honest. But it always comes into the details of how much they're paying into it if that's making money. Now, they noted a big part of that decline was due to the 4.6 million decline in Disney Plus Hotstar, the service that was offered in India and parts of Southeast Asia. Now there's the key thing to remember. Last year they lost streaming rights to Indian Premier League cricket matches, which prompted them to lower growth targets. Now remember, this is in the wake of what they said back in November, that they were trying to increase their subscription in Southeast Asia. Part of their big announcement was that we got kodansha stuff here, we're growing our catalog, anime is a big part of it, we need to fill this gap that is in Disney's offering, and anime is going to fill that gap. We need to increase the amount of subs that we have in Southeast Asia. And this is a bad sign that it's not working. Yes, you could say it's partly to do with this fact they lost the streaming rights. Now, in US and Canada, Disney Plus seen a loss of 300,000 subs, bringing them to 46.3 million. Hulu gained 200,000 in that quarter, bringing them to 48.2 million. ESPN increased by 400,000, bringing them to 25.3 million. Now, here's the big shift. Here's the thing that's sort of painting a very interesting picture. During Disney Plus earnings calls, CEO Bob Iger announced that Hulu content would be introduced into Disney Plus later this year for a one-app experience. Surprised it's taken them this long to do that, but that's them's the breaks. CFO Christine McCarthy followed that up with, in the process of reviewing the content on our DTC services to align with these strategic changes in our approach to content curation, later stating that we will be removing certain content from our streaming platforms. Interesting. But I'm not jumping to conclusions, so hold on. McCarthy said Disney expects to write down quarter three $1.5 to $1.8 billion from removing content, stating, going forward, we intend to produce lower volumes of content in alignment with this strategic shift. These content spending cuts will hit primarily in 2024, as much of it has been committed this year. Okay, now this is a lot to digest. I think the main key thing that I want to focus in on, of course, is anime. That's what I'm here for. This is the channel that we cover anime. And what I've kind of been telling a lot of people with regards to the exclusivity acquisition with Kodansha and the fact of getting things like Tokyo Revengers, Summertime Render, Time Machine Blues, those things were all this big effort for them to push into a market that wants that, and that was in Southeast Asia. And the thing that a lot of people were complaining about was, why isn't this content over here? Summertime Render took forever to hit Hulu in the United States. Forever. Like 6 months after it would finish, something like that. And what I was telling a lot of people at the time was that they just don't care about it here. They have saturation here, they're doing well here. They were doing this whole acquisition to get over here. And so I didn't really have concerns over things like them censoring things or anything like that, because that was their focus, and that's not going to be so much allowed there as it is here. And then when it came to things like Bleach, I was honestly concerned with their ability to get it on a simulcast schedule, just because, again, I didn't feel their focus was here. Despite the fact that they removed Bleach from Crunchyroll when they acquired the license to Bleach. They got the whole shebang, so they took all of it from Crunchyroll and was putting on their platform. But the main key thing was to remember there, the thing that I was stating was that Southeast Asia was their focus. They didn't care about the United States. We were an afterthought. Well, we announced that we're going to be worldwide. We need to make sure it gets everywhere eventually. But the places they wanted to get increase in subs was the places where they were getting it up immediately. Again, they were sort of trying to fill in this gap that they were missing, and that's what they were saying at APAC. We have this gap, we're going to put anime in it. So that's what sort of has me concerned for if Disney is even going to bother with going forward. And yes, they sort of confirm it here. They still have contracts set up. So like the whole thing with Kodansha, they're going to still get those titles because they have a contract with them. They're going to keep going. But beyond that, this whole thing makes me believe anime is out of the picture. It didn't take them long, just a couple of years, but I think at this point, Disney's cutting out of anime. They know what works for them, which is their titles, but pulling things from the outside, spending extra money, they're doing a lot of cutbacks here. What they're stating here is there is going to be a lot of cutting back in order to ensure that they're still showing profits. The only reason that they still seen some sort of profits this last year was just because their theme parks. Their streaming platform was seeing negatives. And that's in the wake of all the investments they were making into anime and Southeast Asia. So it's unfortunately a sign here, unless they want to keep investing and try to build up there, they might be pulling back to lick their wounds. So we might still see those kodansha titles hitting Disney, but I think their efforts is going to stop. Now, the other big question mark is this whole Hulu Disney Plus merger. For those who don't know, everywhere else, mainly everywhere that was Disney Plus, anything that was anime was going on Disney Plus. They weren't going on to Hulu. So things like Australia, Summertime Render went straight to Disney Plus. They didn't even delay. It was immediately there. In the United States, we had to wait. And when it was fully done and dubbed and everything, it went to Hulu, not Disney. And you can sort of hint why. Yes, in other regions, they don't care what ends up on Disney Plus. But United States, they have this sort of stigma about Disney Plus. It has to be family friendly. And things like Summertime Render wasn't. Now, Bleach ended up on Disney Plus, but I think that's one of those cases of, because this is so big, it gets a pass. Because it's so big, we'll overlook those things. That's sort of the case with a lot of censorship in the United States, is as long as it's big enough, we'll overlook this. As long as it sells enough, we'll overlook the outrage that could possibly come from it. And Summertime Render wasn't the case. It was too niche outside of the shonen crowd that they wanted to keep it away from controversy around Disney Plus. So my thought process is, if it didn't end up on Disney Plus, it's not going to end up on Disney Plus. I have a prediction that when this whole merger thing happens, where Hulu goes into Disney Plus, Summertime Render gets cut off. But it's most likely that a lot of this content that is not going to end up on Disney Plus is simply stuff that's not Disney's. Stuff that's from other networks that they don't want to have affiliated with Disney. But yes, there's a side of me, the everything's being censored side of me, that sort of still puts a pause in there of, oh, it's anything that is not family friendly. And yes, a lot of anime is not family friendly. Again, noting that Bleach is not very family friendly, but it's too big. But we'll see. We'll see how things kind of wrap up, but like I said, I think the main key thing here to kind of point out from this news bit is more the idea that Southeast Asia was their anime focus. They failed. They might be cutting back. They're cutting costs. A lot of that cost is probably going to be whatever they're spending into anime itself, and they're pulling back to their main core stuff because they're licking their wounds right now because they've lost a lot of subs and they're losing money. Their main statement here is saying that we spent a whole gob of money on producing and licensing stuff, and we lost a bunch of money. Now we're pulling it back. And again, the big question mark is anime part of that? I think it is. My prediction is it is. But anyhow, I would be interested to hear what you guys think. Do you think they're dialing back, or do you think they're going to pull out of anime completely? Do you think Summertime Render will end up on Disney Plus? Unless it's already there. I don't check Disney Plus on a regular basis. Not a huge fan of the platform. But let me know down in the comments down below. I really appreciate you guys' support. I thank you guys for dropping by. I hope you guys enjoyed the video as always. If you did, again, make sure that like button down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support this channel more and you like my content, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and membership button down below. I greatly appreciate it, but it supports the channel. You guys mean so much to me, and y'all take care.